Hi,
This is the first
Lakshmi.
time I'm attending.
Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
Lakshmi.
Hi,
Welcome.
Lakshmi. Welcome.
Hi. Good to see you all.
Same here.
Hi Rashmi. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Lata.
Hi, Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu is joining us from Delhi.
Hi,
And where are you
Abhimanyu.
joining us from, Lakshmi?
Bangalore.
Bangalore.
Yes. What about all of you? Are you from different places?
Yeah, mostly from the Bangalore, ICF Bangalore.
Mostly from Bangalore. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought. One person is joined from Abhimanyu is from Delhi, right?
We have
Yeah.
Anuradha who's joined in from Delhi, from Bombay, I know. I think
And
Sudha is
Swati
Oh,
says
from
she's
Hyderabad.
from.
We have Nisha Gupta
Oh,
from
nice.
Jakarta.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
nice.
We have a
Rashmi,
few
you have
folks.
national and international pull.
Yes.
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 I'm a
Hi.
from Mumbai.
Hi, Sanyog. How are you?
Hi.
Good,
Yeah,
how are
hi.
you?
Good, good. Going on.
Good. That's good.
Right. Do we start, Rashmi?
Yeah, sure.
All right. All right, folks. I know it's been fun catching up. I'm sure we'll have more fun as we go along today. Now that we have Rashmi to lead us through this session, we cannot but have fun today while we're learning. It's my pleasure to introduce Rashmi to anybody who doesn't know her here, but I'm sure all of us know her here. At least she's a very popular first face that we all know at ICF Bangalore. Her smiling face, her warm voice is what welcomes any new member to ICF Bangalore chapter. Welcomed me too some time back. And it's my pleasure to introduce her today because not only is she a colleague on the board with me, but I consider her a warm friend, a mentor, my first sounding board for anything to do with the chapter. So a very, very warm welcome formally into the session as a speaker today, Rashmi.
Thank you.
Yeah. So today, so Rashmi wears many hats. For those who don't know her, she is a coach, of course. She's also a national and international award-winning radio. What do you call that? Radio RJ. Did I get the name right?
Radio professional.
Radio professional. Sorry.
Personality.
Yeah. Oh, she's definitely a very famous personality. The number of people who have commented say, "Oh, is it Rashmi's session? I'm definitely going to attend it." Is what I've heard in the last few days. She was honored with the iconic Women Creating a Better World for All award in 2020, which is not surprising. So yeah, she's got experience in various sectors, academia, hospitality, storytelling, consulting, coaching, RJing, MCing, and all of that. And today she's going to take us through on how her voice impacts our presence. And I will not say any more. I will pass the baton on to the expert on it. So over to you, Rashmi.
Yeah. Thank you, Jayashree. That was really sweet of you. And thank you to each one of you who's here this evening. All I can start off with saying is how I would normally start my radio show. Good evening and welcome. And today you're going to listen to Voice and Presence. The two are definitely interconnected because one thing we all have taken for granted is our voice. We don't realize that this is the gift that the universe has bestowed us with. And this gift is what we need to use most of the time. And today it's not about the RJing voice, it's not about any other voice, but the voice that we need to be aware of, those little qualities that come as part of core competencies of coaching that we need to put to use when we are speaking or listening to our clients. Okay, so for everyone who asked whether you're going to sing, yes, you're going to definitely sing, but I won't be singing. Because one very important question and a basic question at this point that I want to ask all of you is, if you can't unmute, you can just type on the chat box. What, according to you, is voice? You can unmute and speak, or you can tap on the chat. What, according to you, is voice?
Using your vocal cords.
Okay, simple. Using your vocal cords.
Expression of emotion
Expression of
sound.
Okay, expression of emotion through sound. Ability to communicate, says Ajit. Means to communicate. Am I being heard? Awesome. Thoughts, emotions being expressed. Reflection. Yes, essence of the being. Wow, such nice ones are coming up. A medium to express, tool of connecting. I'm sorry, it's going really fast. So whatever I can see last, I'm reading out. But I'm sure the rest of you can see the rest which are coming out. But honest,
I
yeah.
think it is also expressing your inner voice.
It's expressing your inner voice, okay? Transferring to another person what's in your heart and mind, yes. And what would you equate a voice to?
A musical instrument.
Yes, a musical instrument. And like any other musical instrument, your voice also needs tuning. If you've played a musical instrument or seen people playing musical instruments, that is something that they do before a show begins. All of them are fine-tuning their instrument. And one of the things we don't do with our voice is learn to fine-tune it. And it's very important. You know, most of us, the moment they say breathe in, we very automatically go. And when we do that, we are not doing the deep breathing that we're supposed to be doing. By nature, if you look at small babies, newborn babies, if they don't wake up in a very long time, where do you very instinctively go to check if everything is fine? You go to the stomach area. And invariably, diaphragm breathing is what we are blessed with, but we lose the ability to connect with that. And the more you go deeper into your diaphragm and breathe from your core, the more powerful is your voice. So one of the first ways to do it, okay, and this you may unmute, you may not unmute, but one of the things that you should be doing every day as an exercise is get into the habit. I'm sure everyone has heard the pigeon outside your window or on your rooftop. You must have heard pigeons. In Hindi, they say gutrgu. That sound has a vibration to it. Everything in nature has something that we can take connection with, and that is the Nada Brahma to which we connect when it comes to universe. And that's the beauty of our connections as well. So the sound of the pigeon, just the sound of that pigeon, no? And if you start doing that as a practice, you'll notice that when you go deeper, you can feel the vibration on your backbone. And when you feel it on your backbone, you know you're doing it right. It vibrates. Even more simpler exercise would be the ah, oo, Okay, I'll just demo it to show you and then tell you what exactly is that exercise. You can do this at any point other than just doing it immediately after having food or any other liquid intake. Just do it when you have that time gap between food or anything else that you put in, because our vocal cords are very close to the foot pipe. So we have to make sure that we don't confuse it. And therefore, we have to be very clear about how we respect this vocal cords that we have been blessed with. So one very important aspect when it comes to breathing is to do this exercise. It doesn't require anything other than time and connection with the self. So you start off with
Shall we do it here, Rashmi? That's why you're pausing?
I didn't pause. I pause now. Okay. Thanks for the question. Yes, Ajit, you may hate pigeons, but they are the ones that teach you what exactly is vibration. Many of us do hate them for the dirt they create, but we forget the lesson they teach. Sony, for your question, please do it. But the whole thing is, I'll tell you now the technique. Start with a shorter ah, a slightly longer and when you go to keep it as long as you can and continue even after the sound stops, because that's where you can feel your core pulling you. Okay, hold it till you can hold it and then let go. Okay, can you do this? You can unmute, mute, doesn't matter. Let's just do it together. Yeah. So the more you start practicing this, the longer you can hold it. And you'll start realizing that when you start speaking from your diaphragm, your voice throat is far more powerful. And the more you start doing, this is a very, very, very simple exercise. If you have kids around you, maybe as a game you can start it. You'll be helping them breathe right as well. But most of us don't realize that when we are conscious, we are breathing through our mouth and not through our nose. The moment you do this exercise, you become consciously aware that your breath is now going through your nose. And when you hold it, it is completely contained inside and you are feeling that pressure. Okay. So the more you start doing this, the more powerful and more calm you come across. When you're very tense, very stressed, all of us are facing different challenges today. So even at that point, all we can do is sit down whenever we want to do this, wherever we want, we can sit and do this. This doesn't require anything else except a little space where you can sit and do this to yourself. And the more, yeah, exactly, Aparna, you can feel the sound vibe traveling. And when you start doing this exercise, another exercise you can parallelly continue with is chanting. You know, chanting as part of Indian culture is something that most of us don't know the value of. Today, many chants or mantras have been converted into musical songs, but keeping them as chants keeps it on with the particular vibe and breath control. So get into the habit of picking anything that you can chant and make sure that the chant can be your choice, but whatever you're doing, hold it for the complete chant. Don't take a very long one, a shorter one, and then just go up and down, up and down. You know, like there is this wonderful one which I learned as a kid and I never knew the value of it. So if you go to some of the Vedic chants, it would be like Yopam Pushpam Veda Pushpavan Prajavan Pashuman Bhavati Ya Evam Veda Yopam Ayatanam. Yes, Gayatri Mantra is another one which is very popular, Swati. You can do that holding your breath, okay? Making sure that you don't pause in between. That is also a wonderful way to do breathing control. And when you get into this motion of understanding your breath, everything about what you do starts becoming far more easy. And when you're very stressed, this is something, yeah, even Amen. If you're more aware of it, Johnny, and you do it, you just go on without a pause. Even something as simple as Amen can be very powerful. You just become aware of it. And each time you do it, and the more you start doing it, and you will realize without your knowledge, you will be going and operating from a space of gratitude without your knowledge. It's not that when you set out to say this chant, you are fully grateful for whatever is happening. But the more you start saying this, you become grateful. You start becoming way more calm. Yeah, that is what is our Lata. It's Om that has been split. And everything around us, even Brahmari as an exercise, you don't have to do anything else around it, but just holding that sound, you know. Because when you go into deeper Brahmari, you close every entry point, your nostril, your eye, and your ears. But then you don't have to do it that complicated. See, now today, in today's times, everyone's talking about lung power. And all these breathing exercises we've got as something our ancestors have done, tested, and left behind, we don't even value. And all these breathing exercises is where we understand our voice is also coming from. So the less shallow, the more deeper your voice. The more deeper your voice, the more calmer you sound. And the more calmer you sound, the far more powerful is the way you listen. Because the noise up here automatically starts steadying. There's so much happening. There's so much happening. And the more we start doing every bit of whatever we are following, it could be anything. I can see on the chat, so many of you are already doing it. Excellent. But please, if you haven't started, it's not too late. These are exercises which we normally are blessed with. Remember, this is our gift. And the best way to use it is to gift it to the world. When we say voice, it's either through our writing or through our sound that we convey whatever message needs to be conveyed. So always important for us to make sure that we value this amazing gift that we have been blessed with. And the more conscious you become of it, in a way, even these simple exercises make you far more powerful when you speak. I'll just stand up to demonstrate another exercise. Again, one of those stress busters, which you can do anytime you feel you're getting into a stress mode or you want to calm down because of something you heard, or something you're part of. All you need to do is keep your hand on your diaphragm, okay, this area, and to the count of 5. When I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your diaphragm should actually expand. So what you can do is count of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let go, release. And remember to thank the universe that this is something that you don't have to take care about. It's very automatically happening in you to keep you alive. Because when we call it pranayam, this is our basic prana. And the more awareness you have with your prana, the more you are connected to your being. And, you know, when it comes to coaching per se, that's where I've prepared a small little slide that I thought will be useful for all of you, because whatever I'm saying, to register it, if you also see what I'm saying and where it's connected to our core competencies, it'll make sense. When we understand as coaches, especially now with the new normal, all of us moving virtually, it's very, very important for us to work around our voices. To work around that very important, I'm calling it a gift because we don't even know how blessed we are to be having the voices. It doesn't matter whether your voice is bass or whether you have a shrill voice. It's how you're going to do these exercises that you get a voice that can be listened to and can be powerful. So for me personally, my own understanding about my voice, like in coaching, we say a breakdown is always a breakthrough. It was a personal breakdown wherein I understood the value of my voice. Where I went to a crowd to speak when I was a young girl standing for election, I was such a shy person. I could not talk to more than one person. If I'm talking to Aparna and somebody else, let's say Jayashree walks in, I forget what I'm talking to Aparna. I was that bad. And I went and stood for elections and I forgot my speech. I cried thinking the world is going to never forget me. But that was also a moment when I realized that I am stopping myself. And like every coaching experience, that's what I understood. And that's where my journey with my voice began. And when we go to find out what is the root of the word voice, this gift comes from the Latin root vocare. Okay, that's why voice and vocation have a common root. And that is this Latin word. And the meaning of this word is call, invoke, or name. And if you get the understanding of how every one of us is using our voice for the vocation we are in, it becomes very, very prime for us to work around this blessing, because in today's new normal, most of us have our cameras off and are muted. And if a person is listening to you, there needs to be something in your voice to captivate them to stay on. And that is where we as coaches can work around it. Okay, with bandwidth challenges, there are many other challenges, but what we can work around is our own challenge. So as we move on, what we need to be aware of is vulnerability. Now, I said I picked each of these from our core competencies according to ICF. Now, when we talk about vulnerability as a core competency of a coach, we are talking about creating trust and safety. Now, in a coaching conversation, tell me what have been certain questions that you have asked where you've realized you are vulnerable or the client has been vulnerable with the answer. What are some of the questions that you ask to show your vulnerability? You can unmute and say it, because then we can work on the demo of how you ask the question. Any moment, whether as a coachee or as a coach, you experienced vulnerability based on a question or a statement.
A question like Rashmi, a question, something that I asked, what are you experiencing right now?
Okay, what are you experiencing right now? Okay, what is it you're resonating with? When you ask these questions, you're very conscious, right? Our voice has 3 levels. We have a soft voice, a middle voice, and a loud one. So these questions in vulnerability, because that's the point when you're building the trust, they oscillate between the soft and the middle. So you don't ask them the question, what are you feeling right now, right? Very automatically and consciously now on, reduce your volume, but don't make it too soft. It's between the soft and the middle. What are you feeling right now? What are you experiencing? Yeah, what does that make you feel? Or how do you feel? Because when you ask this question, you also have to be very powerfully aware of the pause. And yeah, Sunil, I see hesitation. It's okay to share what's going on. I'm here to listen. And then you cannot expect them to immediately answer, okay? This is a very beautiful point in coaching, where sometimes when you ask this question in that aware zone of soft to middle voice, you will notice silence automatically accompanies it, and you need to be comfortable with the silence, because you need to allow them to assimilate this vulnerability. But when you are being vulnerable, what are some of the moments in coaching where you cannot be vulnerable?
When you're challenging the client.
Yeah, exactly. It's very important that when you challenge your client, or you're asking the nudging question for which you're slowly trying to shift his thought process or her thought process, at that point, you should be very clear that you are in the middle voice. At that time, it's not the soft voice, it's the middle voice. You're not again loud. You are in the middle voice and you have to be aware of it. Now, all of this, whatever I'm telling you will seem like, oh my God, what is she talking? But if you start practicing this and become aware of your voice, you will start noticing that what is that middle voice? Because when I say, how are you? To how are you? To how are you? Right? So you have the 3 levels that you are working with. The same question in the 3 levels that we are talking from. So you have to be very, very clear, especially when it comes to vulnerability, where you should be vulnerable and how you should not. Because many people, whether we realize or not, are picking our emotional state in the how of our communication. We don't even realize that most of the time when we are speaking, we are giving away our emotional state with the way we are speaking. And that gets reflected exactly in the breathing. If you're aware, when you're very tense, your breath does not come from your diaphragm or nabhi. Right from there, it comes right from here, your throat. It's extremely shallow. And that's why you feel the dryness. So become aware that as a coach also, your client is picking up what you're trying to communicate. That's why with certain clients, the communication gets established and the relationship firmed in the very first couple of opening statements, they already are there. Okay, so when we are talking, a diaphragm breathing and a diaphragm throw would be something which would be like after you take a deep breath. Okay, so when you take a deep breath and speak, you will be like, okay, tell me more. And if you're going shallow, it would be like, okay, tell me more. You can see the difference in both these statements of where the client will definitely open up. Right? And as we move from vulnerability, the next very important quality that we have to be aware of as a core competency is openness. Because with openness comes our own ability to be flexible, to be grounded, confident, and approachable. As coaches, we are trained that this is expected of us to be flexible. But when it comes to clients from different cultures and organizational cultural differences, all of these become a huge important point for us to make sure that we don't bring in ourselves. We are there, present, but here we have to make sure that in spite of the fact that we are not very sure of what the client is going to come up with, we will definitely give it away with the way we ask our questions or the way we listen. Okay? How do you make out when you're a coachee? Assume you're a coachee. You're looking at a coach. How do you make out the confidence of a coach just by watching or listening to a question? How do you pull out that this coach is really confident? He is very experienced, I can make out. You have no clue of his years, because years of experience and qualification don't immediately reflect on the way a person speaks. Sometimes it could be somebody who's really young, but can be very grounded and very confident and completely clear on the process. So how would you, yeah, okay, open-ended question. And at that point, what is it that tells you as a coachee that this coach knows where he's leading you? The stability in the voice, exactly. And there is so much non-verbal going on. You know, today with the virtual screens, we can see only this much of a coach, right? So most of our communication is actually happening here. There's so much non-verbally we are speaking to our coaches, which we have to be aware of. And the more we become aware of this with our tone, with our pace, exactly, Ravi, it makes a huge difference to the coachee to understand our confidence levels. Yes, Abhimanyu. There's a lot with the eyes. Even if you're wearing a pair of spectacles, there's so much the client can see through your spectacles. Your eyes speak a lot in virtual sessions. So what is I about? We are doing vulnerability, we did openness. We now move on to the next element, which, okay, Suparna, I like that. Many a times I prefer audio calls with my clients as I feel a lot is found out by the voice, but you know, agree with you completely. there are moments when it could be the connection, it could be the bandwidth that you could miss some of these. So what would you do at that time? You should not be disturbed. And that the fact that you as a coach is not being disturbed by this challenge is visible in your voice. Okay, so the next element that comes as part of our core competency is being informed. The context, the identity, the environment, the experience, the values, and the beliefs of our client in order to enable him or her to shift is where this becomes important for you as a coach. When you go completely aware of where the client is coming from, your questions, your voice gives it away. Because sometimes you are not a walking, talking encyclopedia. You would go there and there would be a challenge. Even, okay, what would you do if the client is going to say something and you're not aware of that particular challenge? What would you do at that point? It could be a cultural challenge. It could be a challenge with an experience that he or she is talking about. What would you do when, yes. And when you ask, tell me more, you are far more aware that you ask this question with, tell me more, not, tell me more, right? So when you want to sound like you're in control, the question would be, tell me more. And the and that you say, Johnny, this one would be the softer and. The and which has A in small and not in capital. The so is something which has the 3 dots that the client can visualize. Okay? So, what else? Okay? And from this space of coming completely listening there, because this is where you as a coach give away a lot of your competence. And we move now to the next very, very, very important element, which is compassion. And compassion is empathy plus action. So if you see, every coach has to operate from here. It's not about only being empathetic with your client. It's also about moving to action. And this is one of those amazing spaces, which if you use, metaphors become powerful, silence, the most powerful. I remember in a coaching session where I was talking to this client and she was talking about her childhood. And all I did was lend silence. I didn't say anything else. I just quietly listened. I didn't even say okay. And she just paused. And it was a virtual session. And suddenly she burst out. She burst out for such a long time. And you know, when clients burst out in virtual sessions, it's a huge challenge because you don't know when they're going to stop, what exactly you need to say. And I just saw what compassion can be, what silence can be in that particular demonstration. And after a point, she pulled herself together and she said, you know, I have been stopping myself because of a childhood incident. And that opened up a lot of deeper conversations. So as a coach, when you go into the space with this, your voice automatically becomes the one where your breathing is no more shallow. Okay, so this is where the breath starts taking over. You become aware of your own breathing at that point of time because there's so much of silence. You have to be comfortable. You have to be really comfortable to be operating from there. And this is the space where when you operate from, your voice starts showing what kind of a coach you are. And that builds the connect. And from compassion, we move to the next element, which is a very important part of coaching, which is engagement. Now, with everything moving virtual, it becomes important that as coaches, we are facilitating their growth. And therefore, the conversation needs to be engaging. You need to be operating from a space wherein your voice does not give away the fact that you are in a hurry. You want to ask the next question. You have an idea right there, which is bursting out of the seams to come out. The client is just going on and on and on and on, and you need to just hold it all together. Just one word, just nodding your head.
Thank you.
Because engagement is not when there is a conversation.
ഇല്ല ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരു ഗ്ലാസ് നാളത്തേക്ക് എടുത്ത് മാറ്റി വെച്ചിട്ട് ബാക്കി എടുത്തോളൂ.
Okay. Somebody, if you can mute yourself, please. Yeah, it makes a big difference if you are aware of this part of coaching as well. And when you are in engagement in a conversation, especially a coaching one, you'll start realizing that most of the conversation is happening from that side. Especially now with virtual, when it starts coming from that side with you asking just a rejoinder or something like that, you will start noticing that the connection is way stronger, the connection is way deeper, and that is where your presence as a coach starts making a difference. And the more you start putting these questions out in the way they need to be heard and said, with an awareness of where your breathing is coming from, because you have to be aware of this. Doing these simple exercises with more awareness can tell you in the next, like check yourself now, where you are with your breathing as you're listening. Check yourself whenever you're getting into a session where you are. Keep at least 10 minutes for you to just get into that breathing space. Talk to yourself. And one very powerful way of understanding where you're coming from is looking into the mirror and talking to yourself. Talking to your reflection can speak a lot to you, because the how of what you're going to come up with makes a lot of connection with the voice that you're going to use. Okay, so we have promised you an interactive session, and therefore we are moving now into breakout rooms, where each one of you would be put in breakout rooms which have the vulnerability, the openness, the informed. Then what is C? Let's see if you heard and listen to me. Compassion. And E is for engagement. There's a question, a scenario with a Padlet that is put in there, and you're going to be put into different groups. We want you to work as coaches according to the scenario given and come up with the different questions. Each one of you would get either vulnerability or openness or being informed. You'll be put in with that particular scenario and the competency that we spoke about. Come up with whatever you think are those powerful questions using your voice, okay? And when we come back, Jayashree, how much time do they have in the breakout?
I think about 5-6 minutes.
Okay, 6.
Enough?
Yeah, 6 minutes.
5.
Come up with, okay, yeah, okay.
Went into 5.
Yeah, and come up with at least 5 questions. And then we'll come back here to do a demo of each of those questions, okay? So, Jayashree, if you can put them in the groups and share the Padlet.
Moment I put you guys into the rooms, please click on the chat. You'll have links to the 5 Padlets. Choose the, I'll rename the rooms to the VOICE. Please choose the Padlet for your room and you can fill it up. Anybody needs help with Padlet, feel free to ping and ask. I'll come by to the room. Yeah.
Thank you, Jayesh. Did you all hear how Dr. Winston said it? We are in business now.
Winston, this is what happens when you maintain silence and then you speak. Everybody is impressed.
Reflection, my dear.
He's used his voice well.
Reflection, my dear.
I could agree to that.
So exactly. So you have enough time to breathe, and then from your diaphragm, when you speak, that's what happens. Short sentences, crisp, but very powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for the demo, Dr. Winston. Yeah, so how was the experience for all of you? Did you demo the questions yourself, or did you just come up with the questions? What did you do in the room?
We just came up with a question.
Oh, you didn't demo? You didn't check
You
your
know,
voice? You
Rashmi,
didn't- Yes.
Rashmi, I was in the room with
did demo them.
I was in the
because
room
I
with
think that's
Shrikant.
such a long
I was in
time.
the room with Shrikant, and I thought I had demoed also,
Demoed,
but
yeah,
it didn't come
yeah.
up well.
Even I felt the same way, Gayatri. It's okay. It's okay, Gayatri, you have company.
We did the demo in our group, but we did the wrong one, so we had to redo ours. Then we didn't get time.
Okay. So
Hey, I'm noticing on our Padlet for our group 4, there are some questions. Who put them? Or did you put them, Rashmi, is it? Or
no,
Jayashree?
how will I know?
Oh,
I haven't left.
I don't know if someone you didn't manage to put the questions. Did any of us do? I didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
see?
Awesome. So we didn't lose them. Okay.
There are some mystery folks filling in questions, or maybe some other group decided to be generous and fill in questions.
Yeah, I just.
Okay,
great.
so if we can see some of the questions and we can have a demo of those questions, like we'll take a sampler of two from each of those, okay? From vulnerability or from any of those, compassion. Okay, vulnerability. Which of you in the vulnerability group would want to unmute and try this? Nobody? Vulnerability group?
Yeah, that was our group.
Okay.
So the first one,
Yeah, this is something that we thought was very current because a lot of us are going through personal challenges ourselves, but then we have coaching commitments we cannot reschedule. So how do we make sure that we do go across as vulnerable with the client, but are not open about our own vulnerabilities at that time? And still make sure that we have a very meaningful coaching conversation.
so one of the statements that were being made here is, hi, so-and-so.
Mm.
If you could give me a few moments to
Mm.
just collect my thoughts.
Mm.
Where have we gone? Reading that out.
That one, I just gone through challenging situation, that one.
It would be a huge challenge. Sorry.
Mm.
And I missed what I was reading. Yeah. And would like to take a couple of minutes before we start so that I'm able to collect myself. Will that be okay with you?
Okay. Okay. Or what is an even better way of not putting it on the client? Because sometimes the client could get disturbed because of this that you have said and may suddenly wonder whether will you be in are you sure you can take this? Should we reschedule? And you cannot because so many other things are there. What would be an even nicer way of handling that? Because like we said, certain moments we needn't have to give away our vulnerability. So if as a coach, yeah, Sureka.
Yeah, so maybe we could just tell them that these are trying times or difficult times. So before we start, let both center, keep a couple of minutes of breathing silence, and guide them through a 2-minute breathing.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Because automatically what you will be doing at that point of the breathing is helping yourself, but still not losing your client to think, okay, will he or she be in a position to take my challenge today? Yes, very powerful. It works very beautifully. when we take that time for ourselves. And sometimes all it takes is that 2 minutes, or sometimes it's just about, like today I was in a session where the coach just came in and he just did it for exactly 12 seconds, 12 to 13 seconds. And everyone in the room, we were about 30 plus, got centered. And then he continued with silence. So yes, very beautiful, Surekha. Thank you. And thanks, Lenny. But my only question would be that if you say that to the client, if it's a client who knows you well enough to give you that space, fine. But if it is a first-time client, maybe somewhere the client, and he's not worked too often with you, then maybe it would be a challenge.
Very warm welcome to each and every
Right.
one of you.
Okay, so that is what
So
it is.
no, definitely agree with you on
Yeah.
deep breathing and
Yeah.
centering yourself.
Centering,
Actually, that's what I
yes.
wrote. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And when it comes to the next one, who were part of Breakout Room 2? Sunanda?
Sorry. One of the things one could say is that, let's become totally present. Yeah, and take a minute to just.
Yeah. And simple
You don't have
things.
to kind of admit that you are vulnerable or they are vulnerable. It's just a moment taken to just be present for the session.
Yes, exactly. So it really helps. And if you have time before getting into the session, do that breathing exercises that we had discussed in the first part, because that will be a huge help for you to center yourself before you get into the session. Okay. Okay, openness. Anybody from the openness group who wants to unmute and try any one question? Nobody in the openness group here?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just do this and then leave. Okay. Yeah. So this is a senior person. The scenario is senior person and he's talking down. And so, just smiling and waiting for the person, and in a tone that's very encouraging, just say, how would you like to move this conversation?
Okay, where are you, Lakshmi, when you say that? Which voice are you operating from? Let's move this conversation. I told you we have 3 levels, right? The lower, the middle, and the... Where are you when you're saying this? Or where were you when you said, let me say this and then I leave?
Oh, because I have a session at 8. That's why I said.
No, where were you?
When I said, let me say this and then I leave, I was, I think, right here in my throat.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And when I was talking this, how would you like to move this conversation? It's a little deeper. Closer to my, much deeper.
So, yes. So this awareness is important for us to be very, very mindful of. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you so much. Lovely session. Thank you. Lovely meeting all of you. I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay, informed, anybody from the informed room who would unmute and ask a question? Because this is the best way to do a demo for you to understand. And that's why we thought we'd have this.
If no one goes, I can go.
Yeah, Shilpa.
So I was not there when you spoke about the levels. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I joined very
that's
late.
okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So what the scenario for us is that coach is a caregiver, especially to an elder with a dementia or a special child, or comes from a different culture than us. So what we want to be looking or talking, like is the inquisition. Like we are really curious to know how they're doing, what's going on with them. And all our questions, so we got only the last 1 to 2 minutes to really get through. So the questions are not fully composed. But really looking at, okay, what are some challenges you're going through? What support do you need? So just being there, opening up the doors for them to really come forward.
And another thing you have to remember is when you're coaching a caregiver, you have to be a little more empathetic, because you have to understand what are the challenges. And if you take autism, for example, there's a huge spectrum. Yep. So reading a little bit about it to understand, because when you come across to the coachee, it should not seem like you don't get what he's coming, because definitely what he's going through or she's going through, you cannot go through if you're not having a similar situation. But reading up a little and knowing a little of that will help you in that informed state.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, it really helps you come across in the coaching session like, I know where you're coming from, and your voice would be far more softer because now you're speaking with a lot of compassion. Okay, so if we are talking caregivers, then the compassion bit definitely needs to come out in your voice. I get it.
Thank you.
Rashmi, this is Abhimanyu.
Yeah, Abhimanyu.
I thought that asking a question which is about challenges and opportunities could be a leading one. I think in such a scenario, what is important is about, I don't know whether even understanding, even if you, and frankly, as far as autism is concerned, I may have a different perspective, because I may not, when I try, I judge, when I try to think, so I simply have to demonstrate a state I don't know.
Yes.
And I have to demonstrate two things, curiosity and actually admiration for what the client is doing.
But you know what, Abhimanyu, right there, I'd like to stop you. Curiosity can get in the way of you being a good listener.
Absolutely.
Okay,
so that's why.
Yeah, you have to be very mindful of the curiosity element, because especially when it comes to caregivers, and now in these times, many people are caregivers who are taking coaching. Even if we are not in that situation to say that, okay, I can't say I understand because it won't sound genuine, but to be curious would be the wrong thing at that point.
So I appreciate where you're coming from, but the word.
Sure.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the word curiosity is not in terms of the thought of curiosity, but it is about what is important to that person. And about what she does, and every answer you're going to get will be about belief of what is beliefs about the client, and then going with the responses or emerging from those responses. When you build on it, it is in my limited experience something which is about being informed about as is, without going for any hypothesis or any kind of an assumption.
Yeah, exactly. With you on that, but being informed here will help you give and create the spaces of silence far more powerfully.
Absolutely.
Okay. So curiosity, I don't know if it could be the right word, but keeping that space, the sanctity of the space, with just lending your silence can become a far more powerful session for your coachee. Absolutely. Because you don't even have to ask, you just have to lend that silence and just be present. And just your sheer nod would help the caregiver to open up, because at the end of the day, and in those conversations, you're just the sounding board. Sometimes they just need to come to a space where they're not being judged.
Absolutely. And this
provide
is what is it.
Yeah. And at that time, the voice that you use very powerfully would be soft. You remember I said and with a small a and a softer and. So you range between your softer and the lower part of your voice. So yeah, what you just did, no? Absolutely. That kind of and is enough. Okay. And even if you don't give that and just nod, it'll be powerful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So Rashmi, the scenario was about from very different culture, which means we need to
be informed
from where,
yeah. No, that's why whether it is even a caregiver, when it comes to geriatric care, it's a different challenge. When it comes to special needs, it's a different challenge. When it's culture, it's a different challenge. So being a little aware of what the normal, is important, because you come to the space with a lot more surety of handling yourself, not with the problem, but how you're going to handle yourself, because your presence is important there. Yeah, Surekha, you're right. Yeah. Yes. So can we move on to compassion? Oh, we don't have a question. Okay, anybody from the compassion group?
Padlet link didn't go to the right person or didn't get seen.
Okay, anybody from compassion group, if you want a question demoed, then maybe you can just go ahead. Your session on goal setting for a sponsored coachee. Coachee is disturbed with a COVID positive relative and is feeling very emotional during the conversation. Anybody from compassion group? Because this is something that most of us are facing today as coaches. Nobody here was in compassion. Okay, then we'll skip. We'll go to the last one. Engaged. Anyone here from the engagement group? Engaged group? Yeah, so when we talk about engage, it's more about your voice being in the middle level. Okay, so this is where compassion would be middle to lower, while engage will be more in the middle level of your voice when you're asking the questions, because you are facilitating a lot of participation and engagement in the conversation. Okay, non-verbal to the middle level of your voice. Yes, so thanks, Jayashree, for sharing the Padlets. And any questions at this point of time, please feel free. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rashmi, on the engagement, we were there. So one question I would have asked is, I really want to know more about you. So can you tell me more? Because it's an introvert, right?
Yeah. Now, to an introvert, Gayatri, if you say, I want to know more about you, please tell me, do you think the introvert will open up?
I don't know. So then I was going to ask a next question. If I were to ask your friend, how would they describe you?
Okay. Would you get an answer?
I'll keep asking till I get.
Okay, can anybody unmute here and tell Gayatri to an
what
introvert?
About a question?
Yeah,
What about a question like, what's that interesting about yourself you want to share? Will that person open up?
You think so? You keep yourself there. Yeah, Soundarya. What would it be that you will ask your coachee such that the coachee comes back with some reply? Because he or she, you notice in that chemistry session, is an introvert, and it's a chemistry session, and you have to make sure it goes well for them to continue the relationship.
I guess focus on appreciative inquiry, right? Pick up something that has been demonstrated or what they've shared is an achievement.
Exactly.
So, Rashmi, I had this particular type of coachee in a sponsored relationship, chemistry session. And I figured out earlier in the session that he's an introvert. So he was talking about his work, the sales target, this blah, blah, kind of that. So I paused and I asked this question. I'm curious to know outside work, what is that you enjoy doing? And then he completely opened up. Oh, aquafish, aquarium, this, that, all that he went about that.
One question is that, Shrikant, it's a very powerful question when you ask them about something they like to share about the other side of them, or a sport that they enjoy watching or being part of.
Outside, I said, okay, I'm curious to know what is that you enjoy doing outside your work. And then the person completely opened up.
Yeah. It does help a lot, because when you know that side, metaphors as a language become powerful in the coaching session, because you know what they relate to and you can use the language of metaphors there. So when, did you notice Shrikant's voice when he asked that question? Where was he?
Highly engaged.
No.
Voice levels. Middle, high, soft high.
And you know what is the best part, Rashmi? Actually, he had a chemistry session with another coach before meeting me, and he mentioned that in the session as well. And then after my chemistry session was done, he wrote to his L&D manager saying that I was able to connect to Shrikant better. I want him as the coach.
Because what you had in your voice, Shrikant, at least what you demoed here when you asked that question or shared it, was in the level of middle to slightly high. So there is an enthusiasm, a genuine interest, okay, which comes in the way you ask that question. So Thank you very much. That demo was very, very useful. Yes. Any other? Yeah, Surekha.
So I have a question, which is consciously, can you really do that? Because I think a lot of times the questions are asked with intent, and as soon as you have that intent, automatically your tone of voice gets adjusted or the volume gets adjusted. So I don't know how to do it consciously, but it happens.
In certain sessions, in certain movements, when you're deep in conversation, it happens, Surekha. But when you do these breathing exercises, they will definitely help you calm yourself. You know, sometimes when the coachee doesn't speak, we start getting anxious. And it starts reflecting in the way we are asking the questions. The silence is not comfortable for us. And that is the time most of us kind of step back into that space, right? So the more you start getting into this awareness space of how to work around your voice and being aware of it, it makes you far more powerful in your questioning, in your communication, even non-verbally. Because you know where it starts showing on the shoulder. When we start getting restless, our movements begin and we go back and forth, okay? And without our knowledge, it keeps happening because that's how non-verbally we state. It's like one of them said that I prefer doing an audio call. In the audio call, silences start becoming uncomfortable. So it is very important for us to hold ourselves together. So get into a session not wanting to prove anything, but just enjoying it and putting your best voice forward. And the moment you get into that space of this, because vulnerability, if you take the first alphabets of each of this, is where we come up. Jayashree, if you can share the last slide. If we put all these words, if you just take the first alphabet of all these words together, what you get for you is voice. So vulnerability to create the trust and safety, openness with both confidence and flexibility, informed of the self-expression and environment, compassion by using silence metaphors. And it is so very important for us to understand that when it comes to each of these words, they are part of the core competencies, but the first alphabets of all of them become the power of voice, which can thus be used by all of us in all ways. So engagement is when the output is growth and naturalness, and the power of voice can thus be used by us in all fairness. So
Rashmi, I have a quick question, if I may.
Sure, yeah, sure.
I'm curious to know that when do you really actually use, because I can't recall any such instance, use loud.
You can use loud when you are in an appreciative space where the person is talking about a moment of glory, a moment of victory, a moment of where the laughter is loud. You know, sometimes even laughter, where they are in a space of complete happiness. That's where you also can increase your volume.
So I can use that.
No, and also when the coach has got an insight, and when you observe the shift in the energy, you can just go, wow, fantastic. I noticed.
Yeah, that's it, Shrikant. You can't go louder than that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But when they're celebrating something, acknowledging that would be a great space to go loud. Thank you, Jayashree, for sharing. You can stop sharing. So yes, any questions? Thank you so much for staying on. Anything else that?
Yeah, Rashmi, just one thing. Yeah. So next one, you have to tell us how to smile like you without our, so naturally, so that it doesn't pain at the end of the session.
That
because
is the next,
I tried to smile.
Next session by Rashmi.
I don't overdo it. But that's the next session for us.
There will be another acronym.
For smile, no?
Yes,
how to use your facial expressions for presence or something like that.
Thank
we
you.
can all put a video all and try smiling. Take a picture.
Why don't you do a session on laughter?
You know, that's such a good exercise, laughter.
Yes.
I wanted to do that in the end with all of you. Now, since you stayed
Next
on,
session.
you get that bonus. Okay. All of you here are going to laugh loudly till you can see your core really hurting. Okay? That way. Get into that laughter. Let's see. Yeah, just doing this every day, automatically you'll smile and find reasons to spread the joy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Fantastic
Thank
session.
you.
Thank you. Great session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you. My pleasure. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. All the best.
Awesome session, Rashmi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you.
Well, thanks a ton, Rashmi, from all of us. I know you're part of the MC, so you don't want our thanks so much, but we can't help but when you're making us laugh so much and smile and everything. Thank you. But,
Thank you so much,
your
Rashmi.
entire session reminded me what Milton Erickson used to say, right? When you're connecting the neurons in your brain, your entire body and your left side and your right side, you're connecting with your body and your tone, your body gestures and your actions and your tone. It's so relevant, right? How you say something is so powerful. So the way your tone and your volume, all of that really connected. It was a lovely session, Rashmi. I think everybody enjoyed it. And as usual, as Gayatri said, now we will start asking you how to smile as well.
Laugh, first laugh.
And laugh, yeah. On behalf of all of us, thanks, Rashmi.
Thanks, Rashmi.
Thank you so much for staying on.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Lovely